All right, good evening, everyone. Good to see you here tonight. You can see we got a few folks in the live stream. I see Patrick, Gary Ride, and Sheridan Farmer. Good to see you all in the live stream so far. I got Chris Sander on with me tonight, so we'll be talking about kind of chipping away at the size and scope of government slowly but surely, and getting more, giving you more choices and giving you more freedom back. Hey, Voodoo Queen, good evening. All right, so I'm going to start the recording and everything, but real quick before I go any farther, I see if I can see this. I made a mug I made one of these travel mugs. I did it. Me and my wife did it today. We had somebody make a decal on a cricket, and then we taped it to the cup and used citrus strip, which is a paint stripper, and I coated the thing and let it sit for 2.5 hours, took a sponge to it, and then took a cuticle tool and kind of nicked away and it took the powder coating off. And so we're going to have to remake it because some of the lettering was very difficult to peel away. But it worked out slick for the first time. We just got to make the logo a little smaller, and then we'll make a few more. So maybe I'll have a few done. I should have a few done before the events in January, which somebody else can talk about later. But anyway, let me get the recording started, and we shall proceed.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition for freedom lovers, liberty lovers, those who fight because they want to be free and they enjoy freedom and the sovereignty that comes with it. That's this podcast right here. This is the Missouri Liberty Report. Happy to be back with you again this week. I am joined by Representative Chris Sander. He is out of District 33, so that's Cass, Jackson, Lafayette counties. Representative Sander and I are going to be discussing chipping away at the size and scope of government, how we can do that with some legislation, and just, a lot of other freedom-loving topics. So, Representative Sander, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, I guess if you want to, let's get a little of your background here. I guess question one is, were you always in your youth and as you got older, were you always someone who really, cherished freedom, understood the role of government, or did that come to you a little later on in life?
Well, I would say as a kid, I did a lot of Civil War reenacting, and that influenced my passion of history and government. My family's a sixth generation Missouri. I'm sixth generation, so that influences me. And then mowed a lot of lawns, so I started the business at a very young age. I sell fireworks, which is all about celebrating 4th of July. I've done that for 25 years. But those things influenced me. I didn't really need to run for office, but I had helped other members do it. And I thought, well, I could help myself do it. And 2020, COVID, so I said I really need to be there as a business owner and get things reopened. I was living in Jackson County, and that was horrible with all the closures and things going on. So I think I've made a difference in 2 years, and I'm going to keep going back to Jeff City as long as I think I'm making a difference.
All right. So basically, I guess let me start off this way. As far as government goes, what are some things that are there certain topics that you really focus on when you go to Jeff City and it's during the session? Are there certain things that you're more passionate about than others as far as like taxation or regulations, any of those things? Any of those things that really pique your interest in it? Is there a certain aspect of government that you choose to kind of focus on, or do you just kind of generally broad brush, let's do whatever I can to do to get the size of government down?
I mean, every vote I take, I try to limit government and decrease the size of government. I'm on the downsizing state government committee, so we hear bills specifically about downsizing government in that committee. But I'm a very numbers oriented person with running businesses and doing things like that. So I wanted to be on the budget. The first year I wasn't on the budget. There was 7 or 8 house vacancies after the first year, so I got on budget the second year and learned that Missouri's got quite a surplus, $6 billion or more. So we were obviously taxing too much. You can't even spend as much money as we're collecting from Missourians, so we need to give that money back. We did do a tax cut, but I'm really passionate about trying to find ways to cut tax and cut state revenue and give that money back to Missourians rather than trying to find ways to spend it. So I've got bills this session for like removing grocery sales tax. I just bought some glasses. I'm actually in California right now where it's 70, 80 degrees. That was good timing. But I went and bought some glasses, and they don't charge sales tax on glasses or contacts in California, but Missouri is one of 10 states that does. I think it's pretty horrible whenever California is zero tax on something and we're charging tax, and that's backwards. So that was a bill I had last year to remove sales tax on glasses and contacts. I'll keep doing that until it gets passed. There's other sales taxes that we could reduce just to chip away at that state revenue surplus. Income tax is a big one, but if we can help people keep their money during a time when inflation is crazy high. I voted against the gas tax. That irritated me whenever, leadership in the Senate introduced that bill, and then the House passed it. Also, we're raising taxes on gas whenever we're also closing down pipelines and domestic oil. So I think we need to be doing things different, but I do whatever I can whenever we're voting and in committees and budget and the legislation I'm introducing to make a statement or to start a debate on these topics. So,
Okay. I have to ask you a question. Maybe you'll know more. Because I remember at the end of, right towards the end of the last legislative session, it had like $2 billion and like, oh, let's do a tax refund on anybody who actually, paid in Missouri state taxes. And
right.
it was, I think it was up to $1,000 a couple. And it was going along, and all of a sudden it just kind of stopped. What happened with that bill? Do you know? Did it just, they fight too much over it?
We passed that bill. It was vetoed by our governor. I think they wanted to tax refund for anybody, not just people that work, and that's more like a redistribution of wealth type of policy. So I think it makes sense to cut taxes for people that are paying taxes. But it was vetoed by the governor, and then we had special session in September to formulate a different tax cut that starts on January 1st going forward. So it's more of a long-term plan that we passed in the special session, but the deal we did in last session that was vetoed, it was a one-time tax cut, but the one we did in special session is like permanent, ongoing. So that's a good deal.
Okay, so I got a question from a viewer here. They're asking, is there a coalition in the House caucus to really lower taxes or downsize government in Missouri? Do you see a caucus of people in the House that are actively fighting to reduce the size of government? Or is it just a few scattered amongst the many?
Well, the only caucuses that are officially recognized in the House is the Democrat caucus and the Republican caucus. There used to be House caucuses of 5 members, 10 members, 20, whatever, and those are not recognized. They haven't been the 2 years I've been there, but I mean, there's definitely groups that meet and discuss policy together, like conservatives and the Young Americans for Liberty has a group of people that meet. There's the Black Caucus. There's several different ones, but I would say that the conservative side of the caucus in the House is who's trying to cut taxes. Not every Republican, but there's a significant number of Republicans that want to cut taxes.
Okay, now I got to ask you another question here because you're talking about the House. Do you see, or let me? I don't want to put you under the gun. Okay, I don't want. If you don't want to answer this question, that's fine. But how have your dealings been with like Plocker and some of the others who don't seem to want to pass the most popular legislation like last session, that seem to just want to shelf it and then try to shove down our throats the HDR 79, which was on the ballot initiatives. I mean, do you get along with the guy? I mean, do you have problems with him saying, that's just going to sit there on the calendar, that's not going anywhere? I mean, what's your or just your kind of your relationship with the more conservative, liberty-loving side of the House? You get everybody get along pretty well and kind of band together, or because again with Plocker, we call him Plocker the Blocker. Because again, the most 3 popular bills last session all got floored in order to try to get that IP initiative or that IP thing done, and thank God it died in the Senate. But it seems like at the leadership level, there's issues where they don't see what the people want versus what maybe they want.
Well, I've shared a couple votes on social media that I thought my constituents wanted to know how I voted. So whenever I shared how I voted, it was not well taken by Republican leadership because it had everybody's vote on it, and that was not necessarily the same way I voted. So we've been told don't share how we vote with our constituents using the vote sheets that are available on our website, so they have to find it themselves. If we do that, then there'd be consequences. The consequences are not specified, so I like to be able to communicate with my constituents, so I'll do that directly, and I'll do it on social media. I haven't talked with Plocker since about March last year. We don't have a talking relationship there, so that's different than I would think any other member. But I can still be a member in the House and speak on bills, vote on bills, and be in the committee. But yeah, I'm not in leadership, so I don't know the leadership meetings and discussions. The only real leaders are floor leader and the speaker. Any other leadership is not in the Constitution. As far as committee chair or speaker pro tem or secretary, treasurer, all that, caucus chair, all that is not in their Constitution, in the House rules. So it's really up to the floor leader and speaker what happens every day.
Okay, well, somebody else got another question. Do you, and then we're just taking we want your take on this. Do you see that kind of policy where they're like, hey, you can't share your vote, that way on social media? Do you see that as a kind of a censorship issue? That's the way I would look at it. Like, hey, you're not falsifying anything. You're not putting anything that's untruthful out there. You're letting your constituents know on an open platform, hey, this is how I voted on this issue, so don't be mad at me. Do you see that as censorship? I mean, because it just seems ridiculous that they're getting all their feelings hurt. And it seems to me like some of them, not all of them, but some of them count on people not knowing what the heck is going on, and they'd rather have it that way.
I mean, I've spent money on sharing information with constituents using social media because you can do paid advertising. And we all know that Republicans' voice on social media has been censored by big tech. I was the only elected official in Missouri, House, Senate, statewide. I'm the only person, myself, me and me only. I was the only person that was uh, banned on Facebook on January 6th for about 4 months. So the first session, the first year, I was not allowed to use Facebook to interact with anybody. And that was because I had too many groups associated with my social media that they considered to be maybe extreme, and I don't believe any of that. That didn't go with just my political pages. That was my business and my personal pages, everything. So I couldn't use social media, but now I can, and I would think that I could use it just the same as anybody else. But yeah, our votes need to be shared. Whenever I'm doing that, it's not about elections or campaigning. It's more about being open as an office holder, like sending out the Capitol report. There's tons of communications from the House members. I don't think that would be. I don't think the leadership should tell us not to share any information with our constituents or voters or Missourians. So
Yeah.
I'll probably be sharing. I'll definitely be sharing it again in this next session.
Yeah, I mean, again, our government and our representatives are supposed to be transparent. There's not supposed to be this veil between the people and their representatives, and it's like you have to like literally just go up there to find out what they're doing and watch them at every turn. No, now again, like you said, the information is available on the site, but how many people know that? Why wouldn't the
Yeah, I mean,
representative, if they're doing the right thing, why wouldn't the representative want to get out there in front of everyone and say, hey, I'm the guy you elected. This is what you wanted from me, and here's the proof that I am doing exactly what you asked of me and what I promised you. So that just seems to me like some people are trying to cover their butts, but that's my opinion.
yeah, and I mean everything's archived. It's not on there for 24 hours or a week or a session. It's on there forever. Once there's a vote, it stays there forever. It's in the archives, and you can look it up. And if I can look it up and share it, there's no difference than somebody else looking it up themselves. You can go on the House website. There's media feeds. You can look at every hearing room for every committee hearing. You can watch the videos. It's got closed captioning. It's on there for the chamber. I mean, it shows what's going on. It's a transparent website, and I think that any member doing something additional to be more transparent is a good thing. I don't think it should stop with whatever is available on the House website.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're saying, well, you can't do that, and it's like, again, I I would appreciate if my rep said, hey, by the way, these are the bills I voted on this week, this month, and here's exactly how I voted, so everyone can see, and there's no question, there's no misinformation, there's no misunderstanding. This is exactly what I did. I would greatly appreciate something like that.
Yeah, I do it so I can get immediate feedback from my constituents and other members. If I'm voting a certain way and then I share what I did and I get some feedback, then chances are it was the second reading or third reading. It goes to the Senate, comes back. Chances are you vote on the same thing 3 or 4 times. If I share how I'm voting, then I could have feedback, and there's a chance I might change something or watch for something that is thrown on or amended later. And a member can't track everything going on every bill themselves, so it's helpful to for me to share what I feel is important, so other people can help me follow that, and then give me feedback, either emailing, calling, or stopping in the office or whatever. But it helps whenever there's constituents, working with the members to follow legislation back and forth in chambers and to the governor. So
Yeah,
I'm going to keep sharing it.
yeah, I appreciate it. We all appreciate anybody who's freedom minded should appreciate the fact that you're just like, well, I'm gonna just keep doing it because what, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fire me? You can't fire me. So, yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Exactly. I mean, I'm elected by my constituents. I'm not elected by the House Republican caucus. So my duty is to Missouri. My duty is to my constituents. I'm gonna do whatever I feel comfortable with, working for Missouri and working for my constituents. And I'm gonna work for the party whenever we're working together as a team. But this is something that it seems like we need to work better on as a team, is communicating with Missourians.
yeah, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. Again, it's sad that more more representatives don't do that type of thing. So, um, I know before we started the show, you had mentioned that you had pre-filed some bills. Is there one that you're particularly fond of, or that you feel is the most important to you? And can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, I filed a bill similar to Bill Eigel previous couple of years, like St. Charles County, to eliminate personal property tax. I filed a bill to do that in Jackson County, so it would remove the hassle tax of annually uh, assessment and tax on your vehicles, trailers, whatever personal property a business or individual has. Nothing to do with real estate tax in your home or your property, like land, but this would eliminate the annual rental of your things like vehicles from the government. That's one tax that is, if you own your property, it's really ugly paying that every year because you can't really own anything when you got to keep paying for it. But that's one bill to eliminate personal property tax in Jackson County. Another one would be eliminate the grocery sales tax. I introduced that during the special session to cut taxes for Missourians. What better way to help anybody, especially anybody that can't afford food, or anybody that cooks their own food at home, goes to the grocery store. This would remove the 1% sales tax that the state collects on all groceries. Kansas did something similar. So if you live in Kansas City area, you can drive across the state line and get your groceries with less sales tax than Missouri. So I think it's fair to Missouri residents to reduce tax in a way that doesn't charge it on food.
Yeah.
Let's see. Looking through my other bills here. I got a silly bill here on eliminating the daylight saving, the time change twice a year to have permanent daylight saving. So nobody likes it getting dark early in the winter. This would keep it on permanent daylight saving time. It passed out of the House 2 years ago. It passed in the U.S. Senate. U.S. House hasn't taken the bill up since March when it passed out of the Senate, but hopefully the federal government can get rid of that. I don't know if you knew, but there's about 150 or 200 people in the federal government who are paid by U.S. Department of Commerce to manage this biannual time change event. So there's 150 people getting a nice salary from federal dollars to change our clock twice a year. I think that's a waste of government money to do that.
Well, yeah, it definitely is.
But yeah, Missouri could do this, and then we'd save the hassle for Missourians. Another bill I've got is whenever elected officials are running for office and they're currently elected, if they win, they have to vacate their office, and they might have a remaining, 2 years or however much in their term. Governor gets to appoint. I have a bill here to they would need to resign in office before running for a new office. So if they're elected to 4 years, they need to serve 4 years before changing to something different. There's other states that do that, like Florida, where I got that idea from. But we'll see how that goes. There's quite a few members in Missouri that have been elected in the middle of a term. The governor just, recently gets to appoint the attorney general and the state treasurer. Due to that happening with Eric Schmidt and Scott Fitzpatrick, and then there's lower level ones, but those are statewide. I think it should be voters who determine who fills statewide offices or senator, House representative positions, not the governor, especially if it's from an election. If there's a death or a resignation, something I can understand that, but I believe there should be a special election or something other than an appointment.
Yeah, if you get in these positions, it's better if the people elect them than one person appointing them, because, again, appointed officials tend to be the nicest to whoever appointed them, not because it's what's right. It's what's politically expedient for them. So they're going to be beholden to the appointer of that position, and that's not what we want. We want someone who's, accountable to the people and not put in place by another politician. That's something that, it's something I could get behind. I
think, and I mean, also elections are part of a vetting process. Missourians get to ask questions and get answers, and talk about what their policies would be if they're elected. But if they're appointed to another position, did you know Jackson County has the only appointed county assessor in the whole state? St. Louis City does also, but the only county where the county executive appoints the assessor is Jackson County. So I'd like to change that also. I'd like to have Jackson County people elect their assessor. That's just another example of we'd like a voice for the people and transparency.
So going back to our previous topic here, because there was an article at the Gateway Pundit, and they're saying that it's saying that Plocker and Patterson both threatened to remove reps from committees if they shared their votes in real time on social media. Have you heard that, or?
Well, it was stated there'd be consequences, so that's not sure what the consequence would be, but it's a possibility of any consequence, I suppose.
Okay. That was I didn't know if I knew you said there was just kind of a general thing there, but I didn't know if you'd actually heard that or not. I got the article sent to me and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is what's important to you, people not sharing their votes on social media? That's the most important thing you can do right now?
Right. That's not a good way to start.
No, and okay, because I guess some people would say I'm a little conspiracy minded or whatever, but when government acts that way or politicians act that way, my first thought is, what are you trying to cover up? I mean, why on earth would you be against a representative sharing the way they voted? As if they don't put a big title up there on top that says, this guy in the neighboring county voted this way, what a jerk, or anything like that, then what's the big deal? I mean, I don't understand why they're so, butthurt about this, but it is what it is. It is something that we'll have to dig into and try to figure out a way to end that type of stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, main part of our job as elected people is to be able to push one of three buttons. You're either present, yes or no. And if you don't want that to be shared of which button you're pressing, you probably shouldn't be in that job.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So, all right. Well, I don't know. Have you gotten a chance, or have you heard about the gold and silver bill that Senator Eigel pre-filed December 1st? Have you heard about the bill? Been able to see it? Anything like that?
Yeah, Senate Bill 100, and that makes what gold and silver held by the state treasurer for kind of like our budget reserve. I think it's good. I mean, it's something that helps curb inflation, and I don't know what our deposits are right now as a state, if they're making or losing money, but I'm sure if it was gold, it would be doing well compared to some other things.
Yeah, I mean, again, some of the great things that makes it, a loyal, what do you call it? A loyal property, basically, where, um, you know, well, they're not supposed to be able to take it from you. Now, originally, I believe there were penalties in the bill, and they might have been removed, but that can be amended later on. But making it a loyal title or a loyal property so that cannot be taken from you by the government. And if there's penalties involved, like there is with SEPA, that would, I mean, I think we would be the only state with that type of language, that kind of law in the United States. I know there's 4 other states that have laws that make gold and silver currency in the state, but making it to where government can't confiscate it, and if they do, then there's a financial penalty or something. To me, is really really important as far as this gold and silver thing goes, because who wants to get gold and silver and then some judge decides that, well, because you did this, you can't have your gold and silver now. I think that's a little ridiculous. If the gold and silver wasn't stolen, why are you taking it? I would rather. And also on that note, I think if you can make it to where there's penalties for taking someone's gold and silver, honestly, I don't hold a lot of faith in some Republicans and most Democrats, but that's something Democrats could get behind. Is something that even in civil asset forfeiture, they could not take that person's gold and silver. I think that's something they would get behind.
Yeah, I see in the Senate Bill 100 that if you purchase silver, gold, or precious metals, there's no sales tax. That's the current law, no sales tax on those purchases. But this would also exempt income tax on any capital gains whenever you own gold, silver, precious metals. So, when the government's printing money and your gold is increasing in value, you're going to have to pay income tax on that due to government action causing inflation. So this would help curb, tax liability due to inflation if you own gold or silver. I think that's a great thing. I know that some people buy cattle or livestock because you don't have to pay capital gains whenever you buy a calf and sell a heifer or bull later on, however it works. There's not capital gains like there is if you're buying stocks or bonds or something like that. So I think be a little competition there for agriculture maybe, but I think it's great that there'd be investment in Missouri banks or whoever's depositing the gold and silver. I think it'd be a great thing for Missouri.
So I got to ask you this because before I go, I got another question here, but before we go into that one, we're talking about agriculture. What's your opinion, like on the agricultural tax credit that that the governor asked for in the special session? What are your thoughts on, well, any kind of tax credit, whether it's agriculture or something else? What are your thoughts on tax credits for certain industries?
Well, tax credit, the only one that's a good one is one for everybody that's equally applied to individuals, because one tax credit for one person is going to be paid for by somebody else because got to raise money for paying for the budget. But whenever there's a tax credit, you can't even really make a fiscal note on a tax credit because that's the income for the state that's off the top of any revenue. You don't even know what they're going to cost because they're not a refund, they're exemptions. So I don't like any type of exemption that is for winners and losers, it should be equally applied to everybody. That way, we're attracting growth and investment to Missouri in an equal manner. I don't see how tax credits are helpful whenever, whenever the government or whoever's voting for those tax credits are probably influenced by who's going to receive them. I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know
so
how anybody, I don't know how anybody could vote on something that they're totally, unbiased.
yeah, I mean that's it's kind of the way we try to explain to people that it was unconstitutional because it's supposed to be basically, fair and equal across the board, not picking out a tax credit for, a certain industry like agriculture. Now, so I got another question here. Do you know if the House as a whole or a major part of the House has priorities that they'd like to see get done this session? Are there priorities that they've maybe spoken about, things that they want to get done this session?
Yeah, I mean, whatever we didn't get done the last 2 years, and going forward, I think COVID 2 years ago when they took 2 or 3 months off of session, that got a little backed up going forward, and then we just did the congressional map. It took a long time, so there's stuff backed up for a couple of years now that you can tell it's going to come back again, which would be initiative petition reform, election security, I don't know, tax cuts or reducing the surplus anyways. That's the priority.
Okay.
Just growing the Missouri economy, for sure.
Okay.
Trying to recover from COVID.
Right. On that, no, I just lost my freaking train of thought. It's been a long day.
No, like one reason for initiative petition, like Amendment 3 with the marijuana being legalized, the industry is already asking for, updates or clarifications in the ballot initiative language that was passed, because it's very limiting on the free market. There's only certain people who can sell. There's only certain people who can start a marijuana retailing business. They want changes, and so if we had an initiative petition reform, then there'd be much better language on the ballot for Missourians to vote on, rather than rushed, hurried, rough draft language that we've been getting the last few years. There was, 5 ballot items, or 4 this last election in November, but there seems to be quite a few Constitution amendments, and there shouldn't be so many. There should be more through legislation and the legislative General Assembly, rather than unamendable language on the ballot for Missourians to vote. There was 39 pages of language on Amendment 3, and I doubt voters read all 39 pages before they voted on it.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, luckily we had we had people like Ethan Thampy out there that read it all and was traveling the state talking about it, and so I interviewed him, and I went to a function where he spoke, so I could get the word out around here. Now, speaking of the ballot initiatives, I know HCR 79 they were gonna make it dang near impossible unless you had a lot of money to pay people to go around and collect signatures to even get anything on the ballot, which I have a problem with because of the legislature, that's taking away the people's ability to do a roundabout. Now, what I don't have a problem with is raising the actual vote threshold that you need to get to actually pass it to amend the Constitution. I'd rather see you raise the vote threshold rather than the signature threshold. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there shouldn't be a decrease in the number of amendments or languages considered by Missouri voters. There should be, if anything, you could increase what comes to the voters, but it needs to be a higher threshold of where in Missouri, is voting for the constitutional change. Because if you just have the city of St. Louis or Kansas City or just a rural area, it needs to be well representative throughout the whole state of things that are going on the Constitution. That is the Constitution of the whole state, not just rural or urban or suburban issues. It needs to be something. I think it's 50+1 right now, so that's a very low threshold to get something in the Constitution. It bypasses the legislature, and we need Missourians and everybody working with the legislature to debate things and have public hearings and committee testimony before we put stuff in the Constitution. It should be well vetted. It's hard to change it or get it back out if it's in there and then something needs to be changed later. It's very difficult.
I'm glad you said what you just said, because that's the message that we're pushing here, is that people get involved. Not, I mean,
Yeah,
people getting involved and having dialogue with their representatives and getting up there to Jeff City and having conversations. Because, again, one of the last couple times we went up there was a group of 12 of us that walked the halls, and it made a big impression. They actually called us the Gang of 12. And trying to get that message to people to say, hey, sitting back and just hoping that your rep votes the way you want him to is not the way to do things. My state rep has said in meetings before, we're not mind readers. I need feedback from you. And that, again, emails and phone calls are great, but visits to the Capitol is where it's at. Now, I understand not everybody can do it, but getting a few people together,
Yeah, I mean, you can watch the House committee videos, chamber videos online. You can watch the news. You can do testimony for a committee hearing online without ever going to Jeff City. You can, there's free parking around the building. It's open 24 hours a day. You can write, email. There's ways to do that, but whenever there's a low threshold for 50+1, there's a lot of things that are from out of state, like money and lobbyists and entities, that are not Missouri interest, number one, that are putting the ballot measures on our ballot. So I think whenever there's a threshold better than 50+1, then it gets Missourians involved in Missouri Constitution rather than non-Missouri entities writing the Missouri Constitution for us.
Yeah, because the way Ron Calzone presented it, that basically 3 counties in Missouri basically passed Amendment 3. Like, Kansas City area, St. Louis area, and one other. I don't remember if it was around Columbia or where it was at, Springfield maybe. They're the ones that decided that Amendment 3 passed. And,
right.
It's just, it goes to the argument of why do we have an electoral college? That's the reason we have an electoral college when it comes to presidential elections. We need to raise the threshold on the votes needed to amend the Constitution or whatever. But I also happen to agree with you when you said it's better to do it through the legislature. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's pharmaceutical lobbyists or whatever, because I years ago, before we got medical marijuana, people were like, well, we need to just legalize weed. And I said, I agree, but it's going to have to be baby steps. So we got the medical side, and you knew within a period of time the recreational side was going to come along. But the legislature, for the most part, there are a lot of them. I interviewed several people before the primary, supposedly conservatives, and when I asked them about marijuana, they're like, no, absolutely not. Taxes and gun rights and all that stuff, everybody was just, we were all on the same page. As soon as I brought up marijuana, they lost complete. Why do you think that is? Is that because they think their constituents don't want it, or is that some kind of personal belief system that they have. They don't think people should just, people should be able to put whatever they want in their body and they have to deal with the consequences.
Well, I don't know. That's maybe something they campaigned on, and it has little to do with freedom and liberty. If they campaign, one way, and then there's opportunity to vote a different way, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm not sure what other members were thinking. But on my own deal, I think that freedom and liberty. If you want to use marijuana, then you shouldn't go to jail for doing something that there's really no victim. If you want to do something by yourself there, then go ahead. But I think it's something that if you've never done it before, it might be a good idea to do it in consultation with a doctor or nurse or practitioner or something. Don't just try something you're not familiar with, because I don't know anything about it myself, but I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily vote however I feel myself on use, but if it's more freedom, more liberty, I would vote for that.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience that marijuana, the first couple times you try, you might not get anything. And third time, might knock you right on your butt. And it can be terrifying for people because they don't understand what's going on. And that's, but that's the thing, talk to somebody that knows, and there's so many people out there that use it medicinally or whichever way. Hell, there's people out there that specialize in it that can tell you exactly what you need to do so you don't have a bad experience. They show you how it can be used medically, and you can get help with pain or anxiety or whatever you have. So, don't just go I'm going to go buy an eighth bag and then just smoke it all at one time. Not a good idea.
Yeah, it's just something that needs to be under supervision or moderation, or
Yep.
Not everybody's expert, so.
Yeah. What a world that would be if everybody was a legal weed expert. That would be kind of crazy. Well, so drawing a blank.
I had language. I think Ron Hicks had. Representative Hicks had language for an omnibus bill, and I wanted an amendment. It was like 80 pages long, and there was no language in there about what to do if somebody has addiction or oneself, like gambling. You got 1-800-BETS-OFF. I thought let's just put 2 sentences in there for family or individual using marijuana once they get help and stop or whatever. There was nothing in the 80 pages about that, so friendly amendment. He was fine with it, but that's not in the Amendment 3 that passed or the Constitution language. So there's still no way to help anybody who wants help.
Okay, I want to delve into this a little bit farther, if I could speak.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. Okay, we're talking about marijuana, but let's broaden the scope here, because this drives me absolutely insane when we talk about drugs and the federal government and the war on drugs, or state governments for that matter. Your thoughts on, okay, let's say somebody came to you. Let's say the state's like, hey, we're looking at decriminalizing everything. But here's the holdup. How we deal with people and addiction, because a lot of times they want to create more government programs. If it was up to you and you said, hey, let's create a government program for addiction, or let's loosen up regulations for the private industry and open up more centers, just because government's not in the way to help addicts, which way would I'm pretty sure I know which way you would lean, but what would you say to something like that if they said, okay, we're going to legalize everything, but we also want to open up the marketplace for addiction centers? What would your answer be to something like that? Because that's a freedom type issue. I don't want government intervention into treating addiction, because they just make it more expensive and less effective, in my opinion.
Well, there shouldn't be a government definition of addiction. It shouldn't be the government telling somebody you're addicted. It should be if somebody wants help and wants assistance, then they could ask for it. But the government shouldn't be telling anybody, hey, you need help, you're going to get help. That's one part of it. And then if there's a sales tax or something on it, and the money, I think it's all going to veterans now. Uh, that money could be grants to nonprofits, churches, to whatever. The sales tax doesn't all need to go to general revenue for the state to spend however they want. If it's coming from people buying marijuana, then it should probably help people who are asking for service related to marijuana addiction or whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing, marijuana addiction, but I mean, there's sales tax these people are paying, so just set it aside, and it doesn't need to be a government program, but it just needs to be that sales tax or whatever revenue from that industry that is helpful to whoever needs it. I don't care if it's nonprofit or churches or non-religious or community groups or homes or whatever, but it doesn't need to be all run by the government. The government doesn't know best and everything. So.
Yeah, that's for dang sure. I'm trying to think. I've got a clip here in about 6 minutes for a radio station, and we can continue on. So I don't want to get into a real lengthy topic because I don't want to have to cut you off midstream and then go on from there. But
any questions from the listeners? I got a couple more minutes too. But
oh, you got okay. So somebody brought something up a minute ago. Okay. Maybe you know the answer to this. Another listener says, don't counties need to redistrict townships after legislative and congressional redistricting happen? She said, we have committee people who now don't live in the same congressional district after redistricting.
Yeah, they do need to redistrict, but they're not required to. But they should, yeah. There's Jackson County, where I'm at, I don't think the townships and precincts have been redistricted for the Republican Democrat committee people in years. There's, St. Louis City or county, people move the population. I think Wentzville was probably the fastest growing city in St. Charles County that if they don't redistrict in your county level, then they're not getting representation at the local level correctly, because if some place grows, they should get more representation. If some place decreases, then they should get less representation. That needs to be updated, and there's nothing that says it needs to be done every 10 years. It could be done every year. If we wanted to make a map every year, we could do that, but it's just based on census information that comes out every 10 years. But if people want to, they could redistrict every year. I don't suggest that, but the counties need to do that, and I think if they all did that, it'd be great for just better representation.
Okay, and one last question. Someone wants to know, how do you go about getting support for your bills in the House? Are there certain people that you go to a lot and say, hey, I'm writing this bill, would you like a co-sponsorship? Or is it more, or do you just kind of open it up and try to get as many sponsors as you can? Or how do you go about something like that?
You try to get a hearing in committee, and you try to get it on the floor for debate. Co-sponsors help move it along. If you get a lot of co-sponsors, then it'll either help it or hurt it, but it definitely gets it more attention. Whenever Missourians like bills, and it's, say Senate Bill 100 for gold and silver, if a Missourian likes that, they don't have to live in Senator Eigel's district. They can call their senator and say, hey, help him get that passed, or follow up with me whenever you are in committee or debating it on the floor. This is what I want you to support it or oppose it. But the best thing Missourians can do is look through what's filed and share their opinion with their representative or senator, and then share it with the leadership in the House, leadership in the Senate, because those are the people that move the bills from filed to, it needs to go to a committee for a hearing. Otherwise, it just sits there filed, and it might get, referred on the last day of session. which is a death sentence.
Yeah.
But if there's something that everybody is passionate about as a group, they should go together as a group and go straight to the Speaker's office, the floor leader's office, and then the Senate President's office and the Senate floor leader's office, and say our group wants this or we don't want this, and do that regularly.
Okay. Well, Representative Sander, I greatly appreciate your time. Maybe as the session, as you go into session and we move on, if you got a bill that's really a hot spot, let me know. I'll keep in touch with you in the meantime and have you back on to discuss any important bills that you file or something that you're very passionate about. I'd like to have you back on and get you to. Oh, wait, we got one last question. We got about 2 minutes left.
Sure.
They want to know how vital do you think grassroots are going up to Jefferson City? How vital do you think grassroots organizations are when it comes to legislation?
They're very vital. I would say in the building there's Republicans, there's Democrats, and there's lobbyists. There's not three parties, but there's three sides to every story, I would say. And if the grassroots people are there, they're gonna, weight it towards what does Missouri want, because Republicans, Democrats, lobbyists don't necessarily always speak for what the Missourians want whenever they're in a building surrounded by themselves all day. So grassroots people keep us grounded. They let us know what feelings are back home whenever we're, in Jeff City Monday through Thursday, Friday, 4 months of the year. We need to know what's going on at home, and without grassroots people in the buildings, then we might not know what's going on.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Get there early. Yeah, I would say they need to get there early in January, not April and May. Come early and get stuff moving early.
Absolutely. Well, Representative Sander, I greatly appreciate your time this evening. Great talking to you. Best of luck this legislative session, and I'll see you on January the 11th, sir.
Yeah, I need you guys to warm up the temperature before I get back to California.
We'll try our best. Have a great weekend. Have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
You too. Merry Christmas.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that's going to do it this week, folks. I mean, I appreciate you all being here tonight. Again, it's been a very long day for me. I wasn't the most, uplifting spirit tonight, but it does show you that we do. I mean, everybody in this live stream knows right now that we have a lot of great we have some great state reps, and I believe Representative Sander is one of those who seems to understand that liberty and freedom is most important. But here, again, the biggest takeaway from this for me tonight was to hear him say that he will continue to post his votes on social media so his constituents know exactly how he voted. That's somebody that we should be supporting because of the fact that he doesn't care, it's nothing set in stone. Go ahead, what are you going to do? You're going to punish me because I literally am telling my constituents how I voted on a certain, piece of legislation so they know, and that I can get feedback? What a concept. Getting feedback from your constituents so that you know how they want you to vote. That seems just so silly now, doesn't it? Oh my goodness, I can't believe that people would actually do that. That's the kind of representation that we need here in the state of Missouri. But Patrick will be talking about it later. But yeah, January 11th's a big day. Going to the Capitol that day and making a push. And we need to push very hard. So, with that, I want to thank you all for joining me for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. If you go to YouTube and if you go to these videos, you're going to see links to web pages, internet streams, all these things, and a sponsor, make sure you click on those links. Make sure you go to molibertyradio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Sam Britton and Off the Cuff. Now, this coming Sunday, which will be Christmas night, it will be a rerun of his interview with Senator Eigel the previous Sunday. Okay. Also, you don't forget to check out mofree.org. Don't forget to check out keyradio.live, because that's an affiliate that carries a show once a week, as well as Missouri Liberty Radio does. And don't forget about our sponsor, slaphappybeverage.com. All those links are in the description, so please go visit them and show them all some love. You know, go to mofree.org, sign up for the email list so you can find out, you know, when they're going to have a live stream, what they're going to be discussing, so you can join in on Odyssey. The link will be there. Everything's going to be there. Patrick sets it up real nice. So make sure to show a little love to those people who have shown me love and continue to show me love. That's all I ask. Next week, I will be doing a show, but it's going to be much earlier in the afternoon. I know that most of you may miss it, and you can watch it later at your leisure. Sam and Trish Britton will be on with me, but we're going to start at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon because I have a Christmas party to go to that evening. So I will not be home for the normal time. Now, the following Friday, no problem. It'll be Patrick and I if Patrick's not busy. Patrick will be back on for his monthly visit. I'm looking at getting Tom Martz back on with me. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I've got to get some other guests on next month. I may have Charles Lewis back on, but I want to get Tom Martz on with me. Probably get Charles back on with me, and then who knows what I'll find from between now and then to you know, those people to bring on and interview and have a nice, lively discussion. But anyway, thanks to Gary Ride. Saw a couple new people in here tonight. Let's see. We had John Doe. And we had, John Waterman in here tonight. So good to see you guys here. But again, Missouri Freedom Initiative, Gary Ride. Always good to see Catherine Dreyer in here. We had Wilderness Gal, which is Maya. Casey Rich, Voodoo Queen, Warrior Class 3, and let's see. We had Jonathan Ashley in here for a bit, so good to see each and every one of you. Oh, Sheridan Farmer was here as well. So good to see you all again tonight. Appreciate each and every one of you. And again, to all of those out there listening, have a Merry Christmas. I hope that you don't let the COVID crazies keep you home, or this nasty cold weather, that you get to spend quality time with family and friends, because that's what Christmas is about, not the presents, but that you get to spend quality time with family and friends and share a little love and joy, all right? Even though government sucks and they try to suck the livelihoods out of everything. Oh, sorry, John Waterman. I'm Charles Lewis. Okay, well, sorry, my bad. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, next week at 2 o'clock, a little earlier live stream, but it'll still be available to view later and, all that jazz. And yeah, if you see this video and you like what you see, make sure you like and share the video, and make sure you subscribe. My numbers keep climbing up. In fact, the WEF video that I did is the now ranked number one. Senator Eigel's interview was number one, and now the WEF jumped over that one. It's the most views I've had, 303 so far, and I've gained about 42 new subscribers, so they keep coming in. So all of you who are spreading the word, greatly appreciate you all, because this thing is continuing to grow. And and it's amazing to be a part of, and I have all of you to thank for that. So anyway, it's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, next week, Sam and Trish Britton. And then the first of the year, the first Fridays, Patrick, the Missouri Freedom Initiative. And we'll continue our discussion on the legislation here in Missouri and how to go about doing it the right way. So again, Merry Christmas to everybody. And we'll see you all next Friday.
Want more freedom? It starts with you. Join us next week on the Missouri Liberty Report and find out how you can get involved to take back your state.
All right, thanks everybody who joined me tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, it's just gearing up for the holidays, I guess. And again, I've just kind of been in the all day. Well, just a short story. So whoever put the windows in his house did an absolutely horrid job. Okay, they just sucked it up. And we got a couple windows that aren't hung right, and they leak like a sieve. So today I got some of that plastic with the double-sided tape, and I hit it with the hairdryer to shrink it to block the cold air because it was getting with these wind chills. It is stupid. You can have your door shut and the heat on, and it's awfulness. So it sucked. But anyway, worked on some things like that today, and then worked on this here cup for a little bit. And like I said, it's not the greatest thing, but it works out pretty nicely. Because I told my wife, so if it's not perfect, I'll carry it around and I'll take it to work with me every day, and that way I can advertise my podcast. Anyway, folks, thanks to all of you. Have a Merry Christmas. And again, we'll see you next Friday. Well, I might see you next Friday. But if I don't see you next Friday, Happy New Year to you as well. Take care, everybody. And again, enjoy your family, your friends, and, who cares about presents because, you're having fellowship with your family. That's really the vitally most important thing about the holiday.